Part 1. Dr. Kim Taeho rubbed his tired eyes and stared at the computer screen. Numbers and graphs filled the monitor, all of them showing data from the alien probe that arrived on Earth 3 months ago. It was almost midnight, and everyone else had gone home hours ago. But Taeho could not leave, not when he was so close to understanding how the probe's communication system worked. The Seoul Institute of Extraterrestrial Biology was quiet at night. Too quiet. Taeho liked it this way. No meetings, no phone calls, just him and his research. He took a sip of cold coffee and made a face. It tasted terrible, but he needed to stay awake. Suddenly, red lights flashed throughout the lab. A loud alarm screamed through the building. Taeho jumped, spilling coffee on his notes. His phone buzzed with an emergency message from Park Min-ho, the security chief. Breach at the north wall. Something big. Evacuate now. Taeho looked at his computer screen, then at the door, then back at his screen. He had backed up his data this morning. It would be safe. But still he hesitated. What if this was just a drill? The wall exploded. Not the door. The actual concrete wall of his lab shattered like glass. Dust and debris filled the room. Taeho fell backward off his chair, hitting the floor hard. Through the dust he saw something moving, something massive. It stepped through the hole in the wall. The creature stood at least 8 feet tall. It had 6 limbs, each one thick with muscle and ending in claws that looked sharp enough to cut through steel. Its body was covered in dark scales that seemed to absorb the light. But the most striking feature was the patterns on its skin. Glowing lines of blue and purple light pulsed like a heartbeat. The creature's head turned toward him. It had too many eyes, 4 of them, positioned around its skull in a way that meant it could probably see in all directions. Its mouth opened, revealing rows of crystal-like teeth. Taeho should have been terrified. Every instinct should have been screaming at him to run. But he was exhausted, covered in coffee, and frankly more annoyed than scared. Plus, his scientist brain had already kicked into gear. "Oh wow," he said, slowly getting to his feet. "Are you carbon-based? You look dehydrated. Do you need water?" The creature froze. Its glowing patterns flickered rapidly like it was confused. It tilted its head, studying Taeho with those too many eyes. Taeho grabbed his scanner from the desk. His hands shook a bit, but he managed to point it at the creature. "Fascinating. Your bioluminescent patterns. Are those for communication or temperature regulation? And those teeth." He moved closer, completely forgetting about the danger. They look crystalline. "I have never seen biological structures like that." The creature made a sound, something between a growl and a hiss. It lunged forward, claws extended. Taeho ducked, but only because he dropped his scanner and bent down to pick it up. The creature's claws whistled through the air where his head had been a second ago. "Sorry," Taeho said, standing up with the scanner. "I did not mean to startle you. You must be stressed. Travel through space is probably difficult." The lab door burst open. Park Min-ho rushed in with 6 security guards, all of them carrying weapons. They stopped when they saw the creature. "Dr. Kim, get away from that thing," Min-ho shouted. "It's fine," Taeho called back. "I think it is trying to communicate. Look at the light patterns. It just destroyed a wall. Maybe it does not know how to use doors." Taeho paused and reached into his desk drawer. He pulled out a protein bar. "Here, you have probably been traveling a long time. You must be hungry." He held out the protein bar toward the creature. Min-ho made a sound like someone had punched him in the stomach. The creature stared at the protein bar. Its glowing patterns pulsed faster. Then slowly it reached out one clawed hand and took the bar. It sniffed it, then looked at Taeho with what might have been confusion. "You peel the wrapper off first," Taeho explained, demonstrating with his hands. Dr. Choi Hana appeared behind the security team. She was the best linguist in the facility. She pushed past the guards, ignoring Min-ho's protests, and stared at the creature. "The light patterns," she whispered. "They are not random. Look, they repeat. It is a sequence." The creature suddenly moved, fast, impossibly fast. 1 second it was standing still. The next it was lunging at Taeho. Claws extended, mouth open wide. Time seemed to slow down. Taeho saw the claws coming toward his chest. He should have been dead, but something strange happened. The creature stopped. Just stopped, frozen in mid-attack, its claws inches from Taeho's body. Its light patterns were going crazy now, flashing between colors so fast it was almost painful to watch. The creature made a sound, something like a whine, and backed away. It looked confused, maybe even distressed. Taeho's heart was finally catching up with the danger. It hammered in his chest. But he noticed something important. The creature was shaking. Not with aggression, but with something else. Fear, confusion. "Hey," he said softly, the way he used to talk to his dog when it was scared of thunderstorms. "It is okay, you are okay. Nobody is going to hurt you." The creature's light pattern slowed down. It looked at Taiho, and for a moment something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or at least the beginning of it. "We need to contain it," Minho said, his voice tight with stress. "Now." It took 2 hours to move the creature into Lab 7. The creature did not fight. It just watched Taiho the whole time, its light patterns pulsing slowly. They set up reinforced walls, motion sensors, and cameras. Minho wanted to add electrified barriers, but Taiho argued against it. "It is not a prisoner," Taiho insisted. "It is a guest. We need to treat it with respect. It destroyed a wall and tried to kill you," Minho said flatly. "But it did not. That is the important part." Lee Yuna, the facility administrator, appeared with a tablet and a very tired expression. She had been woken up at home and was not happy about it. "So," she said, looking at the creature through the reinforced glass, "we are keeping it?" "Temporarily," Taiho said, "until we understand what it wants." "Fine, I will add alien creature to the facility insurance." "What does it eat?" "We do not know yet. Perfect, I will order everything." Yuna made notes on her tablet. As the night turned into early morning, Taiho sat outside the containment area, refusing to go home. The creature sat inside, watching him through the glass. Its light patterns had settled into a slow, steady pulse. Hana joined him, carrying 2 cups of fresh coffee. "What do you think it wants?" she asked. Taiho watched the creature. It had not taken its eyes off him since they put it in the containment area. "I do not know," he admitted. "But I do not think it wants to hurt us. Not really. Something stopped it. Something inside it. Or something about you," Hana suggested. The creature tilted its head as if it understood they were talking about it. Its light patterns flickered once, twice, then settled back into that steady pulse. Far away, watching from the darkness between stars, the Galactic Council received a message from their weapon. The Vrixtal was alive. It had reached the target. But it had not killed. Something was wrong. Or maybe something was very, very right, depending on how you looked at it. News of the challenge spread through the station within hours. By morning, every species with a presence on Vel 9 knew about it. The human who dared to challenge a Vortan blade master with nothing but sharpened metal. Some called it brave. Most called it foolish. A few called it suicide. The betting pools opened immediately. The odds against Taiho were almost funny. 100 to 1. Some bookmakers offered 200 to 1. A few humans bet on their champion anyway. More from loyalty than logic. Most beings on the station put their money on Scythe winning in under 30 seconds. Ambassador Choi spent the morning in emergency meetings. Allied ambassadors came to his office with worried faces. A Keltorian diplomat named Veln arrived first. She was old, even by her species' long standards, and she had seen many things in her time. Veln sat across from Choi, her large eyes showing concern. "Ambassador, I must explain something about plasma blades. Perhaps your commander does not fully understand what he faces." Choi gestured for her to continue. He had not slept well. Veln continued in her careful way. "Plasma blades are not simply weapons. They are a test of mental and physical discipline. The blade is made of contained energy. It requires constant thought to maintain its shape. One moment of lost focus and the blade becomes unstable. Training with a plasma blade takes most species 15 to 20 years before they can safely use it in combat." She leaned forward. "Scythe has trained for 23 years. He has fought in over 200 duels. He has never lost. The weapon moves faster than most species can react. It cuts through almost any material. Your commander carries a metal sword. I mean, no disrespect, but this seems like bringing a stone to a firefight." Choi nodded slowly. "I tried to tell him this. He accepted the challenge anyway." Veln stood to leave, placing a gentle hand on Choi's shoulder. "Then I hope your commander knows something we do not. For humanity's sake." While diplomats worried, Taiho had other priorities. He found Jihai in one of the station's secure areas. She was reviewing station schematics on a display screen. When she saw him, her expression was difficult to read. "I found a practice room we can secure," she said. "Level 7, Section D. It has observation windows, but I can seal it." Taiho smiled. "Leave the windows open." Jihai looked confused. "Why, everyone will watch. They will analyze everything you do." "Good," Taiho replied. "Let them watch." Let them see what human training looks like. Before training, Taiho needed a weapon. He went to the station's fabrication center, a massive facility where engineers from a dozen species worked on various projects. The head engineer was a being called Grax. He had 6 arms and an eye for detail. Grax looked at Taiho with open curiosity. You are the human who will fight Scythe. Everyone talks about it. What weapon do you need? I can build anything. Force shields? Molecular disruptors? Enhanced reaction implants? Taiho pulled out a datapad with a simple design on it. I need this. Plain carbon steel, single edge, 30 inches long, simple leather grip. Grax studied the design, his expression confused. This is just a sword. Basic metal. I could add smart systems, self-sharpening edge, balance stabilizers, vibration dampeners. Taiho shook his head. No additions. I need something that responds honestly. No computer assistance. No stabilizers. Just metal that does what metal does. Grax looked at the human for a long moment. Then he nodded. I will make it exactly as you request. It will be ready in 6 hours. He paused. May I ask why you reject improvements? Taiho smiled. Because I need to know the blade completely. Every improvement adds something I must account for. A simple sword has no secrets. It will do only what I make it do. 6 hours later, Grax delivered the sword to Taiho's quarters. It was beautiful in its simplicity. The blade caught the light like water. The grip fit perfectly in Taiho's hand. Grax watched as Taiho drew the sword and made a single practice cut through the air. The movement was so smooth it seemed effortless. But Grax had good eyes. He saw the perfect balance, the precise angle, the complete control. This human moved like the sword was part of his body. Grax left without saying anything more. But his opinion of the challenge had changed. Taiho began training in the practice room Jihai had found. As he predicted, observers gathered at the windows within an hour. They came curious. Some came to mock. Most came to watch what they thought would be a man preparing to die. What they saw confused many of them. Taiho did not practice aggressive strikes. He did not attack training dummies. He did not show off powerful techniques. Instead, he moved through slow, flowing forms. Cut and return, step and pivot, breathing steady and deep. It looked more like meditation than combat training. Some observers laughed. This is what humans considered preparation. Where was the power? Where was the speed? But a few watchers saw something else. In the crowd, a Manthari warrior priest stood with his student. The Manthari were an old species with their own blade traditions. The priest watched Taiho move and his eyes widened. Do you see it? The priest asked his student. The student looked confused. I see slow movements. Is he afraid to train properly? The priest shook his head. Look at his center. Watch how his weight shifts. See how the blade never fights against his movement. He is not practicing techniques. He is practicing presence. This one understands the old ways. Inside the practice room, Jihai sat against a wall and watched. She had known Taiho for 3 years. She had seen him train before, but never like this. There was a quality to his movement she could not quite name. Focus, calm, unity. After 2 hours, Taiho stopped and sat down beside her. He was breathing deeply but not heavily. Sweat dampened his uniform, but his hands were steady. Can I ask you something? Jihai said quietly. Taiho nodded. Why do you train so slowly? Scythe will be fast, very fast. Taiho was quiet for a moment. Then he explained. My grandfather taught me that speed comes from stillness. If your mind is racing, your body rushes. If your body rushes, you make mistakes. Scythe has trained for 23 years. He is very skilled. But he has trained for performance, for victory, for reputation. He looked at the sword in his hands. I train for presence. To be completely here now, aware. In a real fight, the warrior who is most present usually wins. Not the strongest. Not even the fastest. The one who sees clearly and responds without thinking. Meanwhile, across the station, Scythe trained very differently. He had converted a cargo bay into a training ground. Battle drones flew around him, firing harmless targeting lasers. His plasma blade hummed and crackled, cutting through drone after drone with perfect precision. A crowd gathered to watch. This was the show they expected. Power, speed, dominance. Scythe moved like a storm, his forearms working in perfect coordination. The plasma blade left trails of light in the air. Destroyed drones fell around him like rain. Warlord Krexith watched with satisfaction. He had already prepared his victory speech. This duel would cement Vortan's superiority. The humans would learn their place. Their petition for a council seat would be rejected. Everything was going according to plan. On the second day, more observers came to watch both warriors train. The contrast was striking. Scythe displayed raw power and advanced technique. Taiho showed quiet repetition and breathing exercises. The betting odds shifted even further against the human. That evening, Jihai found Taiho sitting in meditation. The sword lay across his lap. She sat down nearby and waited. After several minutes, he opened his eyes. "Are you confident?" she asked. Taiho considered the question. Scythe is a master. He has trained his entire adult life. He knows his weapon completely. In a contest of pure skill with plasma blades, he would defeat me easily. Jihai felt her stomach sink. Then why? Taiho smiled. But this is not a contest of plasma blade skill. It is a contest of combat ability. Scythe has learned one weapon in one generation. My ancestors learned the blade when their lives depended on it every day. They learned what works and what fails. That knowledge was passed down through 5,000 years. Every movement refined. Every principle tested in real battle. He looked at his sword. Also, I think Scythe has never fought someone who is not afraid of his weapon. Fear makes people defensive. Defensive fighters lose. I am not afraid of the plasma blade. I respect it, but I do not fear it. That might be enough of an advantage. On the night before the duel, Taiho practiced one final time. His movements had changed over the 3 days. They were even slower now, even more deliberate. But there was something hypnotic about watching him. The sword moved like it was weightless. His feet barely seemed to touch the ground. The Menthari priest was still watching. His student asked, "Will he win?" The old priest smiled. "I do not know. But I know this. Tomorrow we will see something worth remembering. Win or lose, that human understands the way of the blade. Few beings in this galaxy can say the same. Tomorrow would tell the truth." The arena was ready. The galaxy was watching. And somewhere in the silence of meditation, Taiho prepared to bet 5,000 years of human knowledge against 23 years of Vortan mastery. The combat arena of Station Vel 9 had seen many duels in its long history, but none had drawn a crowd like this. Every seat was filled. Beings stood in the aisles. The observation galleries overflowed with diplomats, warriors, merchants, and curious watchers from across the sector. The arena itself was a large circle of reinforced flooring under a crystal dome. Medical teams waited at the edges. Recording drones floated overhead, sending live feeds to millions of viewers across dozens of worlds. This was not just a duel anymore. It was an event. Elder Than, the Keltorian who served as arena master, stood at the center. His voice carried through speakers to every corner of the massive space. Today we witness traditional combat between champions. The rules are simple. First to 3 valid strikes wins. Lethal force is permitted but discouraged. Traditional weapons have been agreed upon by both parties. He looked toward the entrance tunnels. Combatants enter. The Vortan entrance opened first. Scythe emerged to thunderous cheering. He was massive, standing 7 feet tall with 4 powerful arms covered in scales that shimmered under the lights. Ritual scars marked his chest, each one representing a victory. His eyes scanned the crowd with confidence. He performed a traditional Vortan war display, striking his chest with his lower arms while his upper arms traced patterns in the air. The crowd roared approval. This was their champion, undefeated, unstoppable. Then the human entrance opened. Taiho walked out to near silence. He wore a simple black training uniform. The sword hung at his side in a plain wooden sheath. He looked small compared to Scythe, fragile even. He walked to his mark without ceremony or display. In the diplomatic gallery, Ambassador Choi gripped the rail. His knuckles were white. Beside him sat various allied ambassadors, all wearing worried expressions. The Keltorian scholar Veln placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Have faith," she said softly, though she did not sound convinced herself. Jihai stood with other military observers in a different section. She forced herself to breathe slowly. She had seen Taiho fight before. She knew his skill, but she also knew plasma blades. The technology gap was enormous. She prayed it would not matter. In the arena, Scythe ignited his plasma blade. The weapon came to life with a sharp hum. Blue-white energy formed into a shaft of pure power. Heat radiated from it, making the air shimmer. The blade crackled with barely contained force. It was beautiful and terrifying. Scythe moved through a formal kata, demonstrating his mastery. The plasma blade sang through the air. Each movement was precise, controlled, perfect. The crowd watched in awe. This was why plasma blades were feared across the galaxy. In the right hands, they were unstoppable. Tahoe drew his sword. The whisper of steel leaving wood was barely audible. The blade caught the light, simple, unadorned metal. Someone in the crowd actually laughed. Another voice shouted something mocking. The contrast between the two weapons seemed absurd. Scythe's translator carried his words across the arena. A metal stick. This is your answer to Vorten technology. Is this human honor or human stupidity? Tahoe said nothing. He took his stance. Feet shoulder-width apart. Sword held low in a ready position. Weight balanced perfectly. His breathing was even and calm. His eyes fixed on Scythe's center, not on the plasma blade. Elder Than raised his hand. Combatants ready? Both indicated yes. Than's hand dropped. Begin! Scythe moved forward with confident steps. He held the plasma blade in a high guard using his reach advantage. He was not rushing. He had fought enough duels to know patience usually won. He would let the human make the first mistake. Tahoe adjusted his position slightly, maintaining distance. His feet moved in small steps, never crossing, always balanced. Those who understood footwork recognized the pattern immediately. Classical blade work. Economy of motion. No wasted movement. Scythe feinted to the left, a testing strike. Tahoe did not react. He simply adjusted his angle, keeping proper distance. Scythe tried again from a different angle. Again, Tahoe just maintained position. The human was reading him, learning his patterns. Scythe launched a real attack, a diagonal cut from high to low using two arms for power. It was a standard opening strike, one that had defeated many opponents. The plasma blade moved with practiced speed and precision. The crowd gasped. Tahoe was not there. He had stepped offline, moving at an angle. The plasma blade cut through empty air where he had been standing a heartbeat before. His counter was immediate and smooth. A rising cut aimed at Scythe's extended arms. Scythe blocked with his lower arm guards. The steel blade rang against the armor, but Scythe felt something in that exchange. The human's blade had moved before his conscious mind could track it. Not through luck, through perfect positioning and timing. They separated and reset. Scythe's expression changed. The easy confidence faded slightly. The human was faster than expected, much faster, and he moved with a quality that Scythe recognized from his oldest training masters: efficiency. In the crowd, the Menthari priest leaned forward. Now do you see? He asked his student. The human does not fight the blade. He becomes the blade. Watch his center. Never moves unless he intends it. Watch his eyes. Never follow the weapon, only the source. Other experienced warriors began paying closer attention. The mocking laughter died away. Something unexpected was happening. This human knew what he was doing. Scythe attacked again, this time with a combination. A horizontal slash followed immediately by a plasma bolt from the blade's emitter. It was an advanced technique, one that required split-second timing. The slash came first, forcing the opponent to dodge into the path of the bolt. Tahoe read the pattern. As the slash came, he stepped forward and down, getting under the blade's arc. The slash passed over his head. The bolt fired where he should have been. He was already inside Scythe's guard, too close for the long plasma blade to be effective. For a moment, they were almost touching. Scythe's forearms tried to adjust, but Tahoe was already moving away, his steel blade passing harmlessly close to Scythe's side. A warning, a message. The human could have struck but chose not to. They separated again. Scythe was breathing harder now. Tahoe's breathing had not changed. The momentum was shifting. The crowd felt it. Thousands of beings leaned forward in their seats. This was not going as everyone expected. Scythe tried a different approach. He used his plasma blade to create barriers, sweeping it in defensive patterns. He would force the human to attack into the blade's reach. Then he would counter. It was smart strategy. Use the weapon's advantages. Tahoe did not rush. He circled, watching the patterns, looking for the rhythm. Every defense has a beat, a moment of transition. He just needed to find it. His grandfather's words echoed in his mind. The patient warrior sees what the rushed warrior misses. The duel slowed. Minutes passed with careful circling and small adjustments. Some in the crowd grew restless. They wanted action. But the veterans understood. This was where real duels were won, in the space between heartbeats, in reading intention before movement. Then Scythe made his mistake. It was tiny, almost invisible. When pressured from his left side, he pivoted right and brought his plasma blade high. Taeho saw it, tested it twice more. The pattern held. Scythe had trained this response thousands of times. It was automatic now. On the third test, Taeho committed. He feinted left with conviction. Scythe's body responded exactly as predicted. Pivot right, blade high. Taeho was already dropping low, his steel blade extending toward the gap in Scythe's leg armor. The touch was light but clear. The blade tapped the joint between armor plates. Not hard enough to injure, but unmistakably a valid strike. The arena's sensors confirmed it instantly. Elder Than's voice rang out across the sudden silence. Point to the human challenger. Score is 1-0. The arena exploded in noise. Half the crowd cheered in disbelief. The other half shouted protests. In the Vortan section, the celebration died completely. Warlord Krexith sat frozen, unable to process what he just witnessed. Ambassador Choi allowed himself to breathe. 1 point. Just 1 point, but it changed everything. It proved the human could compete. Jihai was gripping her seat so hard her hands hurt. She wanted to cheer but forced herself to stay professional. In betting houses across the station, odds began shifting. Not dramatically yet, but enough to notice. The impossible was becoming merely improbable. On the arena floor, Scythe stood completely still. 23 years of training, hundreds of victories, thousands of hours perfecting his craft, and a human with a metal sword just scored on him. First point, in front of the entire galaxy. His trainer's voice came back to him from years ago. Pride blinds you. Anger deafens you. Fear paralyzes you. He felt all three emotions now, fighting for control of his thoughts. Taeho returned to his starting position. He was not celebrating. His expression remained calm, focused. 1 point proved nothing except his strategy could work. 2 more points were needed. The hardest part was yet to come. A wounded warrior was more dangerous than a confident one. Elder Than gestured for them to continue. Combatants ready? Both assumed their stances. Taeho looked the same as before. Scythe looked different. His grip on the plasma blade had tightened. His stance was lower, more defensive. The next exchange would tell the story. Would Scythe adapt? Would he let doubt creep in? Or would he remember his training and fight smart? Taeho watched and waited. Patient, present, ready. The crowd had gone quiet again. Everyone understood Scythe's mind raced as he faced Taeho again. Everything he thought he knew was being challenged. The human should not have scored. The metal sword should be useless against his plasma blade. Yet here they stood, 1-0. He made a decision. No more testing. No more cautious approach. He would overwhelm the human with pure skill and power, show everyone why Vortan warriors were feared across the galaxy. This embarrassment ended now. Scythe activated an advanced technique. His plasma blade split into 2 smaller blades, one in each of his upper hands. It was a master-level maneuver that required immense concentration. Most warriors trained for years just to attempt it. Scythe made it look easy. The crowd roared approval. This was the blade master they came to see. 2 plasma blades meant twice the threat, twice the coverage. How could a single steel sword defend against such an assault? Scythe launched his attack. All 4 arms moved in coordination, creating a storm of plasma strikes. The 2 blades wove patterns in the air, cutting off escape routes, forcing Taeho to react. It was beautiful and terrifying. Combat posts set up around the arena were cut clean through as the blades passed. The temperature in the arena rose from the heat of the plasma. The air shimmered with distortion. Scythe's face showed fierce concentration. This assault would end the duel. It had to. Taeho's response surprised everyone. His grip on the sword softened. His stance widened slightly. His shoulders relaxed. To those who did not understand, it looked like he was giving up, accepting defeat. But those who knew blade work recognized something else entirely. He stopped thinking and started flowing. His grandfather's voice echoed from memory. When the storm comes, do not fight it. Become like water. Flow around it. Let it pass. Taeho's training had not been about learning techniques to fight opponents. It had been about learning to be present, to see clearly, to respond without thought. What happened next silenced the arena completely. Scythe's plasma blades came at Taeho from multiple angles, death approaching in brilliant blue-white light. Taiho moved through the pattern like smoke. Not blocking, but redirecting. Not resisting, but flowing. His steel blade did not try to meet the plasma directly. Instead, it guided the plasma blades past him, using their own momentum against them. It was like watching a dance. The plasma blades carved through the air where Taiho had been heartbeats before. His feet moved in small, precise steps. His body turned at exact angles. His blade created tiny redirections that sent killing strikes harmlessly away. The Manthari priest stood up, unable to contain himself. His students stared in awe. Other combat veterans throughout the crowd began recording with their devices. They were witnessing something rare. Not just skill, but mastery. Archihai had tears running down her face. She had trained in martial arts her entire life. She thought she understood combat. But watching Taiho now, she realized there were levels of mastery she had never imagined. This was what 5,000 years of refinement looked like. Ambassador Choi's hands gripped the rail, but his face showed wonder rather than fear. His colleague Veln whispered, "I have never seen anything like this. In 300 years, I have never witnessed such skill." Scythe pushed harder. More speed, more power, more aggression. His plasma blades moved faster, seeking any opening. But Taiho remained centered in the storm, untouched. The principle was simple to state, but nearly impossible to execute. Superior technology means nothing if you cannot land a hit. Then Scythe made his error. Born of frustration, born of desperation, he committed too much to a strike. He lunged forward with both plasma blades in a crossing attack meant to trap Taiho with no escape. Taiho saw the opening. Scythe had overextended. His balance was forward. His chest was exposed. The counter was there, clean and clear. Taiho's steel blade moved in a simple upward cut, tapping Scythe's chest plate lightly. Not hard enough to harm, but unmistakably a valid strike. The arena sensors chimed confirmation. Elder Than's voice seemed to shake slightly. "Point to the human challenger." "The score is 2-0, chaos erupted. The arena exploded with noise. Beings were shouting, arguing, celebrating, protesting. In the Vortan section, Warlord Krexith was on his feet, demanding review. His aides frantically checked the sensor data, but there was no error. The strike had been clean and valid. In betting houses across 3 sectors, fortunes changed hands. The odds had shifted dramatically. What had been impossible was now probable. Some gamblers who had bet on the human were already counting their winnings. Ambassador Choi collapsed back into his seat, overwhelmed with relief. 2 points. One more and humanity would win something far more valuable than a duel. They would win respect. Jihai was openly crying now, not from sadness but from pure emotion. Her friend, her colleague, was doing the impossible. On the arena floor, Scythe stood frozen. His plasma blades powered down automatically as his concentration broke. 2-0. He was losing. No worse than losing, he was being outclassed. Not by superior technology or greater strength, but by something he had never trained for. Pure fundamental skill. Everything Scythe had believed about combat was crumbling. Plasma blades were supposed to be the ultimate weapon. 23 years of training was supposed to make him unbeatable. Advanced technology was supposed to triumph over primitive methods. Yet here stood this human with his simple metal sword, winning. Taiho returned to his position. His breathing remained steady. His expression stayed calm. But inside he was calculating. Scythe was wounded now, psychologically. That made him unpredictable. A warrior with nothing to lose was the most dangerous kind. Elder Than called for order. The crowd slowly quieted. He looked at both fighters. Combatants require a moment? It was not really a question but an observation. Both warriors needed time to process what had happened. Medical teams approached. Scythe waved them away. He had no physical injuries. His wounds were all in his mind. Taiho accepted water from a medical drone, but nothing else. He needed to stay centered. In the Vortan section, Warlord Krexith descended to speak with Scythe. The crowd watched this private conversation with intense interest. Krexith spoke urgently, gesturing with his forearms. Scythe listened, his expression unreadable. Whatever the warlord was saying, it was clearly important. Jihai managed to send a quick message to Taiho's communication device. Just 3 words. "Be careful now." He read it and nodded slightly. She was right. Scythe's next attack would be desperate, and desperate attacks were often the most dangerous. After a few minutes, Elder Than called for the duel to resume. Scythe returned to his position. His posture had changed completely. Gone was the proud champion. In his place stood someone who had nothing left to lose. His eyes showed a dangerous mix of shame, anger, and determination. When Scythe reignited his plasma blade, he did something unexpected. He maximized the power output. The blade grew brighter, hotter, more unstable. It was dangerous even to hold. But it also meant more destructive power if he could land a strike. Taiho saw this and understood. Scythe had abandoned technique for raw power. He was going to try to end this with one overwhelming strike. It was not smart strategy. But sometimes pride mattered more than wisdom. The crowd sensed the shift in atmosphere. The noise died down. Everyone knew the next exchange would likely decide everything. Either Scythe would land a desperate strike and save some honor, or Taiho would finish what he started. Elder Than raised his hand. Final exchange. Combatants ready? Taiho took his stance. The same stance as before, balanced, present, ready. His steel blade caught the light one more time. Simple metal against advanced technology. 5,000 years of human knowledge against 23 years of Vorten mastery. Scythe's stance was different now, lower, coiled, ready to explode into action. His overcharged plasma blade hummed dangerously. The air around it shimmered with heat. He was preparing to bet everything on one strike. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Elder Than's hand dropped. Continue. Scythe launched himself forward with everything he had. All four arms pumping, legs driving hard, plasma blade raised high. He was executing a forbidden technique called the fusion strike, channeling all his remaining energy into one massive overhead cut. If it connected, the duel ended instantly. If it missed, he would be completely defenseless. Time seemed to slow down. The plasma blade descended like a falling star, trailing light and heat. The crowd rose to their feet as one. This was it. The moment that would be remembered forever. Taiho moved. Not away, but forward and to the side, a technique from ancient sword traditions called entering the storm. Moving toward the attack, not away from it. Getting inside the arc where the weapon could not reach, where all the power and technology meant nothing. Scythe's blade crashed down onto empty floor. The impact scorched the arena surface, leaving a glowing mark. Scythe stumbled off balance, his arms extended, completely exposed. He had committed everything to that strike. Taiho's steel blade rested gently against Scythe's throat. Not cutting, not pressing, just there. A promise that could be fulfilled with a thought. The arena sensors registered it instantly as a perfect killing strike. Match point. Elder Than's voice rang across the silent arena. Point and victory to Commander Taiho Kim of Earth, final score 3-0. For one heartbeat there was. The noise was overwhelming. Half the arena was shouting in celebration. The other half was shouting in protest or disbelief. Beings argued with their neighbors. Some species representatives demanded reviews of the sensor data. Others were already celebrating what they had witnessed. Taiho withdrew his blade from Scythe's throat and stepped back. He sheathed the steel sword in one smooth motion, then bowed deeply to his opponent. It was a gesture of respect. The fight was over. Scythe had fought well. There was no need for humiliation. Scythe stood frozen. His plasma blade powered down and fell from his grip. He should feel anger. He should feel shame. He should feel rage at his defeat. But instead, he felt something unexpected. Clarity. In losing everything, he had learned something his victories never taught him. For 23 years he had trained to be unbeatable, to dominate opponents, to prove Vortan's superiority. But this human with his simple blade had shown him something fundamental. The weapon was never the point. The warrior was the point. Understanding was the point. Security teams moved to form barriers as crowds surged forward. Everyone wanted to get closer to the arena floor. Media representatives shouted questions. Recording drones swooped low for better angles. The victory was already spreading across the sector at light speed. In the human section, Jihai was being hugged by strangers. She did not care. She was laughing and crying at the same time. Ambassador Choi stood with his hands over his face, overwhelmed by relief and joy. Around them, allied ambassadors offered congratulations. The impossible had happened. In betting houses across 3 sectors, chaos reigned. The few who had bet on the human were collecting massive winnings. Most gamblers sat in shocked silence, trying to understand what had just happened. The numbers did not lie. 3-0. Complete victory. Warlord Krexith sat in his seat, staring at nothing. His political plan had backfired completely. He had wanted to humiliate humanity. Instead, he had given them the greatest possible platform to prove themselves. His aide approached carefully. "Warlord, what are your orders?" Krexith was silent for a long time. Then he stood. "I will speak with the human ambassador." His aide looked shocked. "But Warlord..." Krexith cut him off. "I underestimated them. That was my mistake. I will not compound it by refusing to acknowledge what we all saw." On the arena floor, medical teams tried to examine both fighters. Taiho waved them away politely. He had no injuries. Scythe also refused treatment. He had no wounds that medicine could heal. His pride was damaged, but perhaps that was not a bad thing. Jihai made her way through security to reach Taiho. She wanted to say something profound, something worthy of the moment. Instead, she just grabbed him in a tight hug. "You did it. I cannot believe you did it." Taiho returned the hug briefly, then gently stepped back. "It was not just me. It was 5,000 years of teachers." Ambassador Choi arrived next, bringing other diplomats with him. The Keltorian scholar Veln was openly crying. "In 300 years," she said, "I have never seen such mastery. Your species has given us all a gift today, a reminder of what we lost in our rush toward technology." The Manthari priest approached with his student. He bowed deeply to Taiho. "Master Human, you honored the blade today. You showed the old ways still have power. My people would be honored to learn from you." Taiho bowed in return. "And I would be honored to learn from your traditions." Through the crowd, Scythe walked toward Taiho. Security tensed, but Scythe's body language showed no aggression. He stopped a respectful distance away. Everyone fell silent, watching this moment. Scythe extended his primary right hand, a Vortan gesture of respect between equals. His translator carried his words clearly. "You defeated me completely, not through luck, not through accident, through superior understanding. I have one request." Taiho clasped the offered hand. "Speak." Scythe's voice was humble now. "Teach me. I have trained for 23 years, but I see now that I learned only one weapon. You carry knowledge that spans generations. I want to understand what you showed me today." Taiho smiled. "Come to Earth. We have 5,000 years of lessons to share, not just about blades, but about the warrior's path. You will be welcome." The crowd erupted in approval. This was the right ending. Not enemies, but students. Not hatred, but respect. The recording drones captured every moment, sending it across the galaxy. Later that evening, after the crowd dispersed, after the interviews were done, after the diplomatic meetings concluded, Taiho sat alone in his quarters. The steel sword lay on the table before him. He cleaned it carefully with traditional oils and cloth, the same way his grandfather had taught him decades ago. Jihai knocked and entered without waiting for permission. She sat across from him and watched him work. After a few minutes, she spoke. "What you did today, it changed everything for humanity. You know that, right?" Taiho continued cleaning the blade. "I just showed that old knowledge still has value. That is all." Jihai shook her head. "No. You showed that humans belong here, that we have something to contribute, that we are not just primitive newcomers playing at civilization. The Council will approve our petition now. We will have a voice in galactic affairs." Taiho finished with the blade and looked up at her. "Good. We should have a voice. Not because we won a duel, but because every species should be heard. Today just proved we can hold our own. But the real work starts now. Actually contributing. Actually helping. Actually learning from others while sharing what we know." Ambassador Choi entered next, his face tired but happy. "Commander Kim, I just received word. The Galactic Council has fast-tracked our petition. We will have a preliminary seat within the week. Full membership vote is scheduled for next month." He paused. "They are also requesting that you speak at the ceremony." Taiho looked uncomfortable. "I am a soldier, not a speaker." Choi smiled. You spoke very clearly today, without words, but they want to hear your voice now. What will you tell them? Taeho thought about it. I will tell them that technology is wonderful, progress is necessary, but we should not forget where we came from. Every species in the galaxy has ancient wisdom, knowledge earned through hardship and survival. That knowledge does not become obsolete just because we invent better tools. We can embrace the future while respecting the past. Across the station, in diplomatic quarters, Warlord Krexith met with Ambassador Choi. It was a private meeting, but both sides knew the galaxy was watching. Krexith spoke first. I insulted your species. I was wrong. The Vortan Empire formally apologizes. Choi nodded. Apology accepted. We understand that humanity is new to galactic society. We have much to learn, but we also have much to offer. Krexith leaned forward. I propose a cultural exchange. Our warriors train with your warriors. We learn from each other. My Blade Master Scythe will go to Earth as the first student. Perhaps your Commander Kim could visit our training worlds as well? Choi smiled. I think that can be arranged. Learning flows both ways. Your plasma blade technology is impressive. Our traditional methods are time-tested. Together, perhaps we create something new. They shook hands, sealing the agreement. The recording drones captured it. By morning, every news outlet in the sector would run stories about the new alliance forming between humans and Vortans. Back in his quarters, Taeho lay down to sleep. He was exhausted, but his mind was quiet. He had done what needed to be done, not for glory or recognition, but because someone had to stand up. Someone had to show that humanity belonged. The steel sword rested on the table beside him. Simple metal, no technology, no smart systems. Just a blade, honestly made, wielded with skill earned through 5,000 years of human teaching. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Speeches to give, agreements to negotiate, students to teach. But tonight Taeho allowed himself to rest. He had earned it. Across the galaxy, beings of 100 species watched recordings of the duel. Some saw a lucky victory, others saw a fluke. But those who truly understood saw something deeper. They saw proof that ancient knowledge still mattered. That tradition still had value, that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Within a week, traditional martial arts schools on 24 worlds reported increased enrollment. Species that had abandoned their old combat traditions began reviving them, not to replace modern technology but to complement it, to remember the foundations. A young Keltorian watched the duel recording for the 100th time. She saw how Taeho moved, how he stayed centered, how he flowed like water around overwhelming attacks. She decided to find her own species' blade traditions, to learn what her ancestors knew. An old Manthari priest showed the recording to his students. See, he said, this is what I have been trying to teach you. Presence, awareness, unity with your weapon. That human understands. Now you must understand too. The duel became known as the Blade Herd across the stars. History books would record it. Combat academies would study it. Philosophers would debate its meaning. But for Taeho, it was simple. He had honored his grandfather's teaching. He had shown that human knowledge had value, and he had made it possible for his species to take their place among the stars. As he drifted toward sleep, Taeho remembered his grandfather's final words before passing away. The blade is just metal. The technique is just movement, but the understanding that is eternal.